It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right. Happy Friday, everybody. What's up? Don Tony here. It is the 12th of July, 2024. SmackDown just went off the air. Setting up Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam, taking out Randy Orton, which will obviously lead to the Bad Blood pay-per-view premium live event, which happens to be taking place in Atlanta, Georgia. Cody Rhodes super over in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is going to be a very interesting next few months in the world of the WWE. And let's not forget, I mean, I know, Tony Khan and AEW seems to be the brunt of a lot of people's jokes still, but All In Wembley is taking place next month. And that is turning into their WrestleMania every year going forward, I think. Dynamite had a little bit of advancement in some storylines. I will tell you this before we get into questions tonight. And by the way, I apologize about the Band-Aid. I got a dumb mosquito bite on my face, and no matter how I use cover-up, it did not look good at all, so I just threw a Band-Aid on there instead. I'm surprised at how many people who really did not like the amount of blood spewed by Toni Storm with the Mariah May attack. Now, yes, obviously this abrupt turn is to set up All In, but, I think it goes a little bit further than that. Mercedes Moné, really taking the advancement to being a full-blown heel, and Toni Storm becoming a full-blown babyface. I expect a character shift for Toni Storm, and I don't just mean by babyface or heel. I mean, you will see some of the goofy 1930s-esque character go away, a little bit more of a serious Toni Storm. But I think down the line, that sets up Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné. Now, would it be title versus title? I don't know about that, because I haven't even thought about if Mariah May could possibly dethrone Toni Storm of the championship. So, we got an interesting next couple of months in the world of pro wrestling and shit. We didn't even mention TNA, which has been a little bit better lately. And I know that's kind of an unfair thing to say, because TNA's been pretty good for quite some time now. But, the fact is TNA in a lot of ways is stuck in the mud. I will give them a boatload of credit. So far their summer tour has been a success. About a month ago, Kevin and I were talking about this summer tour that TNA announced, and a lot of the areas that they are touring, like Louisville and Philly and a few others, they toured about 11 years ago, and they did not do well. If you remember the screenshots that I took of baseball stadiums that they were going at, there was one baseball stadium in Louisville, Kentucky, where that stadium sat 7,000 fans, and I think they had like 131 fans in attendance. And it was so bad that we actually put a number above each person's head to really do a legit count. And the weather was nice. There was nothing crazy going on at that time that would lead to such a terrible turnout. But, this is pretty refreshing to see. And with the WWE involvement to some capacity, Joe Hendry getting a little bit of exposure now with WWE through NXT. Charlie Dempsey showing up in NXT, and now we're going to have his whole group wrestling on TNA Impact this Thursday. The only thing I will tell you I don't like so far is WWE, and I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this. I'll probably have a convo with Kev on Monday a little bit further, but does it come across to you that WWE looks at TNA only as far as an NXT level? You know, I mean, I'm not saying that the TNA stars should be on Raw or SmackDown. I'm not saying that at all. Right now, leading into SummerSlam, you have to focus on the big boys. You got to focus on your major players, you know, from the Bloodline to the Judgment Day to Cody Rhodes, the Damian Priest, to Seth Rollins and Gunther, and we could go on and on and on. So bringing TNA stars to Raw and SmackDown right now would probably not be the greatest of timing. But when you see the caliber of talent being intertwined with TNA, Charlie Dempsey, if Wesley shows up there, it almost feels like WWE is treating TNA almost like on an NXT level, and I think it should be valued a little bit more. Jordynne Grace being in the Royal Rumble was great, but what has transpired since then, if you really think about it? I mean, yes, she took on Roxanne Perez, obviously, but it sure feels like WWE values TNA more on the NXT level than anything else. But it's fun. It's fun. You know, I don't like to criticize AEW unless necessary. And there's a lot that I could praise about it right now that's getting better. Consistency is the key. You know, just having one great week is not enough. This past Wednesday's Dynamite, I watched almost all of it, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was one of the more better shows in recent memory. And it still didn't break 700,000 viewers. You know, and there was a lot hyped for this past Wednesday. And next Wednesday is episode 250 of Dynamite, and they're really hyping that one up as well. And I don't know how far beyond 700,000 views it's going to draw, because 1 week is not, you know, listen, I don't like bringing up politics anymore unless absolutely necessary, but this is the best way I could compare AEW at this present time. Joe Biden did an appearance, I believe today, went to a rally and did a speech for about 14 minutes, no teleprompter. And people are raving about it on social media, saying like, this is the Joe that we know. No teleprompter. You see, he's fine. That one bad, you know, debate, that's not what he's about. And I'm not criticizing Joe Biden. I could care less about our upcoming election. But one appearance today does not cover up the fact that he has been the white R-Truth, you know, for quite some time right now, with his misspeaking and thinking and just everything about him. You don't take one positive appearance and make it seem like all is well in the world. And the same thing with AEW. It is going to take a while. It is going to take a long while for AEW to consistently get back even in the eights. You might have one event here and there. You know, you remember Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan in the Georgia Dome? They still talk about it to this day with WCW because it drew 40,000 fans on very short notice. It was about a week's notice, and they drew 40,000 fans. People still talk about it to this day because it just goes to show you how out of the ordinary that was to draw that kind of a crowd. And yes, it should have been pay-per-view. My point is that, you know, these events, you cannot, you know, try to flood it with lots of cake and ice cream and decorations and all this wonderful stuff for 1 week. And then everybody's like, oh, everything is beautiful in a world of All Elite again. And then a week or two from now, you got the same shit happening over and over. So consistency is going to be the key. And they're going to have to earn those viewers back, and it's going to take time. You might have a little bit of a hot streak leading into All In, but, you know, it's the mindset you got to think about. Forget the people online. Forget the people who think Meltzer is over the top. Forget the elite media. Forget the whack job fans out there that, have to use capital letters and words and emojis every time they talk about AEW. They have to have 9 paragraphs instead of just talking 150 characters. Forget all those people right now. When you see the way AEW has been used, when you see the fact that they're still using MJF in Q1 because of the Big Bang lead-in, and it makes MJF come across as the most viewed person on the episode of Dynamite, where they don't even build up MJF to the end of the show anymore. Out of every appearance that MJF has been on Dynamite since he returned, I think there's only one episode that he wasn't part of the opener when he's on TV. And you can't base your show to try to pop ratings in certain quarters. I brought up the dinner analogy. When you go to a nice restaurant, sure, we would all love to have dessert when we first walk in. You go to a wedding reception. You want the hors d'oeuvres, then you want the appetizers, then you want the salad, then you want the, whatever they give you next, and then the main course, and then it's the wedding cake, and then it's the, all of the dessert menus, and then you go home with your little gift. Imagine walking in there and they give you the cake when you first walk in, and then they give you the salad next, and everything's all out of whack. There's a reason why things are built. It's not rocket science. Don't reinvent the wheel simply because you think you're popping a rating. Because, the Warner Media, even though I believe they absolutely are going to renew AEW's deal, they're not stupid. If we see it, they see it. And what happens if AEW finds out down the line that Warner Media is going to move the Big Bang Theory to 6:00 at night or on a different night altogether? What's the excuse then? There's only so far you could ride this, and you cannot use this Big Bang lead-in as a safety net. That is ridiculous. It's awful. So consistency week in and week out, building, and maybe some creative control isn't such a bad idea. On the surface, it sounds ridiculous for Mercedes Moné. I don't think she has full-blown creative control. I think some of that is character-driven. I think the idea of her being a monster heel and greedy and very, very selfish, her telling the news world that she has creative control is a great way to advance that persona. I think maybe a little bit of creative freedom is a good way to go with this. Listen, I don't know if you heard on the news today that Ric Flair, they're no longer doing anything with Ric Flair. That energy drink is pretty much done. Another failed project for Ric Flair. I don't think people realize how many projects Ric Flair has had over the years, from finances to banking to weed to energy drinks. There's been a lot, and they've all failed. And this one, again, is a failure. I mean, I saw somebody show me a screenshot not too long ago that his energy drinks in some major department store was reduced to 75 cents a can instead of $4 or $5 a can. And the only reason why they did that is because the drinks are the expiration date is coming. So they want to get something, then nothing. Lana is no longer with AEW. I think the days of just having people there because you can, I think, are over. The Stephanie Vaquer situation the last week, I know somebody sent me a super chat earlier, and we'll get into it in a moment. That is one of the most ridiculous takes that I've seen in the last week. People ripping WWE, the way that they stole Stephanie Vaquer right under the feet of AEW, that they did Forbidden Door and then WWE swoops her in. I've seen a lot of that. You know what I don't see? And I think I know why. And it sounds terrible when I say it, but you don't see very many people ripping Stephanie Vaquer. Nobody put a gun to her head and told her you must sign with the WWE. Nobody put a weapon to her head and said, you must screw CMLL over. You must screw New Japan over. You must no-show this weekend shows, and you have to sign with WWE. You know why a lot of people aren't going to, well, there's three reasons, in my opinion, why they're not going to go after Stephanie Vaquer. Number one, because she is very well liked and she's a star. And a lot of people out there wouldn't dare go after the individual wrestlers because those wrestlers do have very big fan bases. And if the wrestler doesn't respond and go after them, their fan base will. The second reason is, and I'm sorry to say this, it might sound sexist, but she's a woman. You know, on social media, you know, there's this idea that if you criticize a female, you know, more times than not, you're going to get some serious backlash, labeled the sexist, labeled this, labeled that. You don't see it all that much when you rip a male wrestler. And it's just a fact. Listen, I just see what I see, and I just, you know, give you my opinion. And the third reason is because of what happened to her earlier this year. You know, a lot of people out there have no idea that Stephanie Vaquer's boyfriend, well, it's got to be ex-boyfriend, didn't he try to kill her? Isn't he in jail for attempted murder? Wasn't there like a lot of people on that roster in CMLL that were pushing to get this guy out of jail, that it wasn't as what it appeared? I mean, there's a lot of issues personally with Stephanie Vaquer that we don't know. We don't know what happened behind closed doors. We don't know the specific reason. You know, if you look at this press release, I screenshotted it because somebody sent a super chat earlier. If you look at this press release from CMLL in New Japan, this is what they said about the situation. Thank you for supporting CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Citing personal reasons, Stephanie Vaquer is elected to depart from CMLL and New Japan rosters effective immediately. As a result, Vaquer will not compete in her scheduled match July 13th in San Jose. Furthermore, CMLL hereby announces Vaquer is stripped of both the CMLL World Women's and World Women's Tag Team Championships. So, yeah, it is an abrupt exit. But, and that GoFundMe. Okay. Somebody pointed out I had a GoFundMe link in the corner. I'll tell you what that's all about later. So I put that up there before we went live. That was not intentional to leave that up there all this time. But, you know, there is a lot that we don't know that led to Stephanie Vaquer abruptly exiting. But one thing is for sure, AEW wanted her. WWE wanted her. She was with CMLL. She was doing work for New Japan. She is the one that made the decision to leave those two companies and go to WWE. She does not owe us an explanation. And if her contract was solid and airtight, then CMLL could have simply told us, like, look, you're under contract until January. You're under contract until December 31st. And if anything, she cannot go. So we don't know the details. Personal reasons make me think that a lot of it could have to do with what happened to her earlier this year. You know, there's stories out there that some AEW wrestlers also attended a protest, you know, for the release of the ex-boyfriend. I don't know all the details about what went down. I don't know why anybody on CMLL's roster or AEW's would push for somebody to get out of jail. You know, I don't know what their reasoning was. My point is that there's so much that we don't know. And the idea that people are ripping WWE, stealing her from underneath AEW, ripping her away from CMLL, why don't you grow a set and confront Stephanie Vaquer? She's the one that made that decision. And I'm not saying for anybody to go after her. I see nothing wrong with it. And especially, but I will say this, especially for the AEW people out there that are really ripping WWE and Triple H, saying they don't really give a shit about her. They're just trying to take her away from AEW so she doesn't sign with them. And, you know, using the way that she left CMLL. Remember, Mercedes Moné, your darling, she is the one that basically walked out of WWE while she was under contract because she didn't like the way that she was being utilized. So, I think Stephanie McCore's reasoning might be a little bit stronger than Mercedes Moné. This is not the first time somebody has abruptly left, and it won't be the last. But we don't know, and we're not owed an explanation. So that's what I have to say about that. And I definitely want to acknowledge the person who really made me, get into this conversation tonight. Sal Caruso. Elite Fruitcakes are going after WWE over how they stole Stephanie McCourt from CMLL and AEW. Do I think WWE would have signed Stephanie McCourt if she did not work Forbidden Door? So thank you, Sal, for that super chat. I don't know if WWE would have signed her at this particular moment. My gut feeling is that no, I don't think WWE would have signed her right now. I think they knew, listen, if you think that WWE, AEW, and maybe even some other companies out there don't know the caliber of talent that are working other promotions, you're out of your freaking mind. There are wrestlers that do scout all different areas of the country and even outside the world that scout talent that say, hey, you should check out this person. I heard WWE offered her a tryout match 5 or 6 years ago, and they weren't interested. And honestly, I think that was probably a right decision. You know why? Because 99% of us did not know two shits about Stephanie Vaquer really before Forbidden Door. A majority of the, I can only speak on behalf of American wrestling fans. American wrestling fans, I don't recall any of you ever bring up Stephanie Vaquer's name before she worked Forbidden Door. She was announced for Forbidden Door. So she was not a name that was on everybody's radar. Everybody was like, Julia. You look at NWA and you look at Camille. Yeah, you look at, even some people still insist on Tessa Blanchard. Those are the names you always see floating around. Stephanie Vaquer's name was not a name floating around. But once she worked Forbidden Door, and she worked a WrestleMania main eventer. Yeah, Mercedes, Sasha Banks did not close out a Mania, but she definitely was on the upper card. Her match with Bianca, people still talk about to this day, and she's also worked more matches. When you can hang, and some people arguably felt that Stephanie Vaquer did a better job than Mercedes Moné, yeah, that gets you on the fast track of getting interest. And if AEW expressed a lot of interest, that could have forced WWE to pull their card and say, listen, do you want Stephanie Vaquer now? Or do you want to wait 3 years? Dave Meltzer, and majority of my feelings of Dave Meltzer is respect, even though I criticize him quite a bit. And I will criticize the shit out of him tonight about something else that happened in NXT Heatwave. I'll get into that shortly. But, Dave Meltzer made a remark about Stephanie Vaquer today and said that she grew up in Chile and her dream was always to be a WWE star. So it's no surprise to him that she signed with WWE. I got news for you. I think Ethan Page, he always fantasized being a WWE star. I think a lot of wrestlers who are currently in AEW always fantasized about being a WWE star. Just because your end game is to be a WWE star doesn't mean that you don't work other jobs in other places and get paydays along the way. So just because Stephanie Vaquer, her dream was always to be in the WWE, does not mean that she could not work AEW. She absolutely could have. All right. So the idea that, well, she always wanted to work WWE, so AEW really wasn't on the table. The fuck out of here. Seriously, that's if you really take a step back and think about that, that is a really, really ignorant, stupid remark. It's just that once she did Forbidden Door, she's on the map. And now everybody that is an AEW fan knows who she is. Wrestling fans who saw her work against Mercedes Moné now knows who she is. A lot of people like, holy shit. Oh my God, I didn't know anything about it. She looks like a star. She works great. She's fucking awesome. How has she not been? Somebody's got to hire her. And WWE was like, hey, we have a decision to make. Do we offer her a deal now and bring her in? Or do we allow her to go to AEW for a couple of years and sign her 3 years from now? And WWE felt to make the decision now. That's it. Plain and simple. It's business. It's business. Do you want to make an investment now? Or do you feel the investment is a couple of years later? I think MJF is a great example of that. MJF negotiated a new deal with AEW before January 1st, 2024. Let's be clear about that. But WWE, with the amount of money that they are making, they could have easily paid MJF what he demanded to go to that company. But as Kevin and I have been saying for quite some time, even before he re-signed with AEW, there's no need for MJF in WWE right now. For what? The feud with LA Knight? He ain't going to leapfrog a lot of the big boys that are getting play right now. This is not the right time to bring in MJF. It's not the right time to bring in certain talents. You know, a couple of years from now, you may see some retirements. John Cena, I mean, even though he's just been kind of like an undertaker the last couple of years, you know, he will be officially done. Randy Orton, you don't know a year or two from now what's going to happen with him. Roman Reigns, you know what's going to happen to him. Somebody leaves and goes to Hollywood. Somebody else gets a major injury. Somebody else decides, you know what? I don't want to kill my body like this. You don't know what that roster is going to look like 2, 3, 4 years from now. So, you know, if it's really not necessary, you don't use it right now. If you have 2 cars and it's just you and your husband or you and your wife or you and whoever, your significant other, or just yourself, you see a third car you really, really want, but you're like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with our 2 cars right now. We don't need a third car right now. Yeah, but it's available. I got to have it. Well, in a lot of cases, that's carelessness. You know, AEW, with all due respect, I mean, look, we get spoiled by having so many people on that roster, but AEW, this is more of a case, and I've said this for 4 years. I know some Hall of Fame podcasters are very, very late to the game over the last 12 months, but Tony Khan collects toys. Tony Khan is, it's like a little kid. It's like a little girl. Oh my God, I want Halloween Barbie. Oh my God, I want Easter Barbie. Yeah, but Lisa, it's Thanksgiving. Oh my God, it's Easter Barbie. Give me Easter Barbie. Oh my God, it's Chinese Barbie. Oh my God, it's Italian Barbie. Oh my God, they have all nationality Barbie. I gotta have it. You have all these toys. I want PlayStation 5, but you just got PlayStation 4 a month ago. Yeah, but 5 is out. I want 5. Give me PlayStation 6. You know, sometimes collecting too many toys, what ends up happening? Edema. So, all right. I'm getting a little off topic here, so. Doc, 29J, please upload Bully Ray's response to you guys where he calls Kevalaki and me a nobody. Classic episode. We are working on that. For those that are interested, this past Monday was and thank you for that 5 spot, my friend. This past Monday was the 11th-year anniversary of the Wyatt family debuting on Raw. You remember those nitwits in the first row? Husky, Harris, Husky. Oh, you're cool. You're cool bringing up a bad gimmick, you know, just to what? Embarrass him? Rest in peace, Bray. That was 11th-year anniversary. So we posted for everybody that episode. That episode's been offline for many, many years. So I re-uploaded it Monday so everybody could hear our initial reaction to the Wyatt family's debut. I did not realize that episode also was the episode where Bully Ray challenged Kevin and I to go to Florida and step in the ring on TV and confront him about TNA. Now, we did not do it because, number one, it made no sense. Number two, we weren't worried about getting our asses kicked because I don't think Bully Ray would be stupid enough even at that time to try to pull a John Stossel. But, you know, we were like, what are you going to do? You know, even before live event, like for what? Like, what was the purpose? Because we were ripping TNA at the time. So on this episode, I didn't even realize it. It was Kevin I's response to Bully Ray, ripping us apart as to why, we were criticizing TNA, and he challenged us to show up to go to Florida. He would pay us to go to Florida. So now few people want to hear the episode of Bully Ray's response to what we said. Now, I want to make something perfectly clear, guys. Everything from that time is 1,000% squashed. Was I a little bit over the top at the time? Absolutely yes. Was Kev a little bit over the top at the time? Absolutely yes. Was it a little bit ridiculous that a wrestler was calling out podcasters because of criticizing and threatening, not violence, but, threatening yeah, it was just goofy and stupid. That's all resolved. I have a lot of respect for Bully Ray. Kevin and I have been praising his shit over the 11 years that have preceded, so I think sometimes people will hear something for the first time from like 10 years ago and think that that's still the vibe today. That is not the case at all. But if you want a funny flashback 11 years ago when shit was going down with us, yeah, we are going to put that episode up. I feel so a lot of you newer viewers and listeners, Kevin and I had the #1 show online for many, many years. And yeah, when we split up for a few years, that definitely killed a lot of our momentum. It killed. And to this day, we're still earning a hell of a lot of people's trust to come back. And slowly, everybody is coming back. The fact that in so many countries, even last week, we were in the top 25 in the United States. And, remember, 15 years ago, there was not that many podcasts out there. Now there's thousands of wrestling shows. So very, very slowly, we're gaining everybody's trust back. And it's going to take a very long time. It's just like what I said about AEW earlier. AEW has built a reputation creatively of how they handle business, and it turns off a lot of fans. And simply just, changing the color of the house and putting new, model, molding on the side and painting the walls, and changing the landscape doesn't take away the fact that the foundation of the house got seriously fucked up. So it's going to take quite some time for AEW to repair that. And like I said earlier, consistency and trust. You have to build it. You can't just get it because of a Big Bang lead-in or because 1 week you draw 800,000 viewers. It's got to build a reputation of trust. So, but yeah, we will be posting that episode in the very near future. So, Psycho, thank you very much. He still thinks that we are #1. I appreciate that. We definitely take a lot of pride in what we do and what we say. And we know that words, do matter. A lot of those bigger shows out there, or the shows that did get bigger along the way, they don't realize that some of the dumbest, shallow stuff that they say will get replayed and tweeted and posted hundreds of times in other places. That's why we don't clickbait, and that's why we don't put a lot of bullshit controversial stuff out there. Because words do matter. And a lot of people say some really, really, really goofy shit that ends up everywhere. And I guess we could segue into it right now. I definitely think this is a good segue. Ronnie C., your reaction on the Patreon show to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez ripping Kalani Jordan versus Sol Ruca from NXT Heatwave was brilliant. DT, please elaborate why I think Brian Alvarez called it choreographed gymnastics and Dave Meltzer calling the match weird. Thank you for the 20 spot, Ronnie. I know some people out there were waiting for this because I brought this up on Patreon Wednesday, and our channel members on YouTube got to hear this too. Oh, and by the way, as you will see in the sticky thread for tonight, congrats to Robert Swanson, a.k.a. Bob O'Mac. He won the Money in the Bank predictions contest from last week. He predicted every match correct. And he almost predicted the match time of Damian Priest's title defense almost exact as well. So, Bob, if you see this, you won a 50 spot, reach out to me via DM, email, let me know how you want that 50. I could give you a PayPal, Amazon, e-gift card, WWE, AEW, Pro Wrestling Tees, whatever you want. So congrats. He's been a long-time supporter of what we do, and very, very cool that he won this. In fact, I think you also won Patreons, so you should go check it out. And I just spilled a whole bunch of club soda on me. That's all right. All right. A lot of people heard this Wednesday on my Patreon show. Ronnie wants me to elaborate a little bit more. I don't know how many of you saw NXT Heatwave. For a lot of people, including myself and Kev, we enjoyed NXT Heatwave more than we enjoyed Money in the Bank. Not to say that Money in the Bank wasn't a good event, but NXT Heatwave just, I don't know, it flowed better. The matches were easier to digest. Great competition, a little bit of swerves along the way. So I enjoyed NXT Heatwave a little bit more. If you heard Kevin and I's comments on Monday, I thought Kalani Jordan and Sol Ruka tore it up. I thought they tore it up. Now, something weird happened after Monday's show. Because remember, Heatwave was Sunday. Kevin and I did the show Monday. So the next couple of days, some weird shit was going down. I saw on social media a lot of people posting clips of Ricochet. And they were saying that Sol Ruka and Kalani Jordan were stealing or taking a page from Ricochet. And they were showing a match with Ricochet doing similar, like near falls and flips and gymnastics. Now, if I gave a shit about Twitter, I would have spent a few moments and done it, but I don't give a shit. I hate to break it to a lot of people out there, but Ricochet is not the innovator of some of the near falls and flippies while they're trying to do pin attempts. That goes back decades. And you could pull at least 20, 30, 40 matches that are very similar. That's not a criticism on Ricochet. I want to make that clear. But, young fans today that only think Ricochet is an innovator, an originator, don't understand that Ricochet was inspired by others before him. So we don't even acknowledge that. Sometimes you just write it off of young wrestling fans that don't know any better, and that's perfectly fine. But something really bizarre happened. Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, who I want to say clearly have a right to their opinions. But when you are who you are, and you've been in a position you've been in for decades, you deserve to be addressed and answered or critiqued just, as if anyone else. And they did not like Sol Ruka versus Kalani Jordan. And no one has to like a match. What are you, stupid? I see how people are on social media. What are you, fucking kidding me? That was 6 stars. I don't mean that. They didn't like the match. Okay, I respect that. But it's the reasons why they didn't like the match. Brian Alvarez called the match excessive choreographed gymnastics masquerading as a wrestling match. And Dave Meltzer said it was not a wrestling match, and he called it weird because of all the gymnastic spots. Now, forget about backgrounds in gymnastics. A lot of people, especially because of the fandomhood of Dave Meltzer and AEW and a lot of the flippy that you see, obviously, why when Sol Ruka and Kalani Jordan do the same style, is it considered weird? Why is it excessive gymnastics masqueraded as a match? Why for them is it that, but in AEW it's not? and other wrestling promotions, it's not. But for Kalani Jordan Sal Ruca, it is. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. You may not agree with my opinion, but I threw this out there on Wednesday and got people talking. I think I know exactly the reason why Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez are ripping this match as much as they are for the reasons they are, especially Dave Meltzer. Why would the match be weird? Why is it not a wrestling match in it? And here's my reasoning. Let's use Will Ospreay for an example. You could use Ricochet if you want. You can use any high flyer, flippy main eventer that you want. A lot of people think that Will Ospreay is the most talented wrestler today. I actually made a comment recently that I think in no time, a lot of people are going to look at Will Ospreay as their version of Shawn Michaels. That consistent main eventer who just really puts on top level performance. You know, I'm not saying his style is exactly like Shawn Michaels. Some people understand why I say what I say. You know, way back in the day, it became legendary when John Cena was still a big thing and Roman Reigns had first come around with the Shield. And when you started hearing rumblings that they wanted to turn Roman Reigns into a single star, I said, he's going to get the John Cena push. And a lot of people at the time were ripping me apart. What are you talking about? He doesn't wrestle like Cena. He doesn't look like Cena. There's nothing about him that's Cena. I'm like, no, he's going to be the next John Cena. He's going to get that John Cena push. And you saw what happened. It's just a sense. So you look at Will Ospreay. And the reason why Dave Meltzer especially was so angry at this Sal Ruca Kalani Jordan match is because it kind of exposed Will Ospreay. And please, do not mix up my words. This is not a shot on Will Ospreay. What it exposes is that Will Ospreay, to a lot of people, he's in a different time zone. He's in a different league. His athletic abilities cannot be duplicated. So when you get two rookies, one who wasn't even wrestling more than a couple of years ago, and they could pull off what they pulled off, well, hell, doesn't make some of these flippy stars look all that special that, hey, even rookies can pull it off. Now, do I think Kalani Jordan, Sal Ruca are in the league of Will Ospreay? No, not saying that at all. But the idea is that if you have paid your dues, if you are a superstar, if you are on the upper tier for like an AEW or somewhere else, then yeah, you get your colors, you get your flowers. But if a rookie like Sal Ruca and Kalani Jordan does it, well, that is scripted gymnastics. That's just weird. Because now you kind of expose that, well, you know what? Guess what? You know, some people can pick it up in a very short amount of time. And that's the reason why I think that they're so upset. Why else? Why else would you be annoyed at this match? Oh, my God. I just cleaned my glasses. The fucking lens popped out. That is not good because I can't read my computer screen without my glasses. So I got to like pop in my my glasses. I should always keep an emergency pair of glasses over here. So we'll get it back in. But I don't know what you all think about it. I mean, listen, as far as elaborating more than that, again, you know, these women are not in the league of these other stars. They've only just begun. But, you know, when you see someone who, listen, it's almost like a rookie in different sports, that they might be the new kid on the block and suddenly that they're outperforming major stars. And, you know, people just write off like, oh, it's just a hot streak. Oh, it's just, you know, new. Once they get acclimated a little bit, I don't know how long it's going to last, but that should be fine, my glasses. But, yeah, that's what I think it is. Because if you watch that match, there's not much different than what you see in a lot of other organizations out there. I think it's disrespectful to the women that were in that match. Because if they were paying tribute to Ricochet, that's a good thing. If they were inspired by some high flyers in Mexico, or they were inspired by, dare I say, Will Ospreay and others, that's a good thing. You know, and somebody said in the chat, there's a lot of wrestlers that do flippy these days. Yes, absolutely. You know, I mean, back in the day, you would see a lot of that choreographed stuff with Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrera and Rey Mysterio and Psicosis, Rey Mysterio and others. You know, we saw that in the 90s. You know, maybe it wasn't the exact precise moves that you saw, you know, in that match, but it was very, very similar. We saw it with Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko, you know, early on before they became stars in WCW. So, you know, to call it weird and to write it off, it felt like a real personal, you know, insult. Why were they so personally upset at that match? And I think it's because, you know, if two rookies could pull it off as good as they did, well, what does that say about the ones who are 9 point whatever on Cage Match? So, all right. Let's give a shout out to Scorpio 1117. Thank you for the 2 spots, Scorpio. Mariah May versus Toni Storm should main event All In. I disagree. Definitely worthy of an upper tier match, but you know, you have to start treating some of your championships bigger than others. Not saying that the AEW Women's Championship is not a meaningful title, but, you know, whoever your world championship is at All In, if it's Swerve or somewhere else, that should be your main event. I don't like the idea of women main eventing a card simply because it's women main eventing a card. You know, when Ronda Rousey and Charlotte and Becky had that main event, you know, yes, WWE overpushed it. And it got a little bit wacky towards the end, but it earned that spot. You know, there are times where you feel that 2 women or multiple women have earned the spot to main event a card that features men and women. I do not feel Toni Storm and Mariah May should close out All In. Just like I don't think Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné should close out All In. As of right now, I think it should be Swerve and Bryan Danielson. And that is a very interesting match because a lot of you remember my thumbnail from 3 years ago. You remember that thumbnail? And you could go look it up because it's still on YouTube. 3 years ago, it was a picture of Bryan Danielson with the AEW World title. And the wording said, "Will it happen?" 3 years ago, we were talking about how Bryan Danielson told Tony Khan he does not want to be AEW World Champion, that he wants others. And at the time, it was a little bizarre because you felt like, hey, if he's the leader of the company, if he is, you know, the one getting the most ratings and ticket sales and, you know, followers, and he is working his ass off, why can't he be the number one guy in the company? If everybody looks at him as the number one guy, why would you really reject it? And it was at a point where some of you were saying at the time, well, DT, maybe, you know, deep down inside, you know, his WWE World Championship reigns are the ones that he wants to stand out. He doesn't want it to be clouded. I don't know. For some people, they might think that that idea is stupid. Some other people might think it makes sense. We don't know what's in the head of Bryan Danielson, but it is very, very interesting 3 years later to see him fighting for the World Championship. Now, I don't know what his contract is beyond All In, but I'm curious if they do a stipulation that he puts his AEW career on the line. If he puts his AEW career on the line, man, does that raise the stakes of that match. Because as of right now, I don't see him winning it. I think Swerve will get another major high-profile victory under his belt. But man, if they had that stipulation that Bryan Danielson puts his career on the line, boy, that sparks a shitload more interest, because one of two things is going to happen. And Bryan Danielson will become his first time ever World Heavyweight Champion for AEW, or he retires from AEW in-ring competition. So we'll see. We shall see. Give a shout out to Bernard. Bernard! I had to work a full year for either Tony Khan as my boss under a head booker role or Dixie Carter back in the day. Who would I pick? You know, I would, believe it or not, that's actually not as hard as I think. I would work for Tony Khan. I would work for Tony Khan. Listen, as ridiculous as he comes across and as childish and goofy and spoiled brat and everything else, you know, he is a rabid wrestling fan. Not saying that Dixie Carter wasn't a wrestling fan, but I think Tony Khan, let me put it this way. Yeah, you know, the first couple of years, there was some wrestlers that were being pushed on TV that I personally thought had no business. You know, I still don't understand why the fuck Chuck Taylor got as much TV time as he did. I still think that he blackmailed somebody in that company. I'm nothing against the guy personally, but, you know, when I look back at Chuck Taylor's AEW career, I'm like, why? Seriously, like, what the fuck? It's just, some people's were bizarre. But I also think overall, Tony Khan recognizes who are the bigger players out there. There are wrestlers that they feature on TV that honestly, I think get way too much play. You know, you look at Shane Taylor Productions and you see, you know, even some people like Kyle Fletcher, nothing against him, Commander. You know, there's some wrestlers that I'm like, all right, I get it. You got to fill spots, but there's some people that get these pushes and I'm like, no, I don't understand why. But I think overall, Tony Khan has done a little bit of a better job, you know, than Dixie Carter did. You know, I just, you know what it is too? I was told by a lot of people back then, because remember, we were blocked from ever interviewing anybody at TNA at that time. But, you know, one thing I was told over and over again is that back in the day, Dixie Carter would always have to put her spin on a lot of what you saw on TV. She actually would be affected by, you know, trends on social media. You know, she was took things personal. For Tony Khan, it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, Tony Khan does trust. In fact, I think Tony Khan's problem is he probably trusts some people too much, you know, because there are people behind the scenes that are responsible for some people that you see on the TV screen that have no business getting the TV time that they get, or the pushes that they get, or the matches that they get. So I think Tony Khan may trust people a little bit too much. For Dixie Carter was the opposite. You know, I personally would choose probably Tony Khan over Dixie Carter. Seriously. Thank you for that. Did I say Doc before? Or Dog 29J? Yeah, we could curse, especially if there's money on the line. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Fuck, marry, kill. Dixie Carter, Danny Garcia, Jeannie Buss. And that is not the you know, the AEW wrestler. Danny Garcia, isn't Danny Garcia like The Rock's ex-wife? Wow, that's like you know, I haven't really examined that relationship that closely, but I've heard Brian Last and Jim Cornette address their relationship quite a bit over the years, and I've looked here and there, and like that's kind of a weird relationship. See, from where I come from, I couldn't be good friends with my ex. You know, it's just like wiped them off the face of the earth. Not physically, but I would, you know what? Back in the day, I would have slept with Dixie Carter. I always thought Dixie Carter, you know, she was a little bit too old for me at the time. And I know some people are now like, what are you talking about? Look how old you are. You know, Dixie Carter was still older than me back then. I probably would have, I think Dixie Carter was attractive. I'll never forget the AC/DC t-shirt that she wore. Anybody remember that photo shoot she did and she was wearing the AC/DC shirt? I thought she looked pretty hot in those photos. It's just, one night stand, Benjamin. Don't take it seriously. You know what? I probably would marry Danny Garcia because based on what I've seen with her relationship with The Rock, I could probably marry her and then tell her a week later, listen, it's not, you know what? It's not going to work out. Let's just be friends, and I probably would have been able to get out of that marriage just like that. And Jeannie Buss, with all due respect, we got a question here from Guardian of Chaos. What's up, Guardian? What's up, Chaos? Shout out to Chaos. Shout out to Austin Nance. And shout out to OTS Tribal Queen. Thank you for always running the ship here, keeping things under control. Would I ever consider making any YouTube content, not necessarily live, since I'm only on once a week right now compared to when I was on 3 to 4 times a week? If not, why? Yeah, there's actually things brewing as I speak. Here's the short version of it. A lot of you know that I'm now in my 50s. Kev's in his 50s. You got to be a little bit more careful with your health. I have a marriage, 2 sick parents, 2 dogs now, and, I'm not in the greatest of health. So I got to be very careful how I use time. And the days of me staying up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning are very, very rare now, because if I don't get any type of sleep, it's not that you just feel like shit the next day, but I don't know if people know, I wear a continuous glucose meter, not because I'm not diabetic, but I'm on keto, and I monitor everything I eat, and I make sure I keep my blood sugar in check. I do know for a fact that when I get almost no sleep, my blood sugar level all day long is like 120, 130. If I get good sleep, my blood sugar will go down to 80 or 90, which is what it should be. And Kev had a very serious health issue a couple of weeks ago. Very, very serious, that he had to undergo some testing and was hospitalized for a little while, urgent care. And he's okay. He's okay. I think he's okay because he did a 5-hour banger the 4th of July night for our Patreon family. But my point is, if I'm going to do additional content, I got to be very careful with my time, because, Mondays are hard already, because by the time we finish the show and I put the shows online and get everything done, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up every day at 6:30. So, and then Tuesday when I come home from work, I'm really like wiped out, and I got to put, the enhanced version of our show for our channel members, because I always promise that every week. And then you got Patreon on Tuesday night. So right now I'm doing 3 shows a week: Monday, Patreon, and Friday. So what I have been wanting to do is a daily show. I know people like, wait a minute, you just talked about health. Now you want to do a show every day? When I went on Monty and the Pharaoh 2 weeks ago, we were talking about my original hotline days in 1997. What got me to be in the #1 hotline in the country was doing a hotline report every single day. It started at 15 minutes, then it went to 20 minutes, then it went to, I think, maybe 30 or 40 minutes per episode. But we always covered the news, gave our little spin on it, and got out of there. And I miss it. I absolutely miss the hotline days. It was fun to do it that way. It's fun to see the response. What I was thinking of doing is a daily update where we cover basically any news that transpired from the day before, any shit that's happening on social media, anything that is worthy of conversation for that particular day. I haven't decided yet, but I'm leaning towards it heavily. And I do want to cover AEW Dynamite again. I find myself watching it more now, especially if Forbidden Door is out of the way. So if I do more content, I plan on doing a daily update. but those daily updates would probably only be about 30 minutes. It would not be live. And I would upload it on YouTube and on the website, dontony.com, and Patreon, of course, and give everybody a little daily update. Monday would still be the big show with conversation. Friday would still be the Q&A format, which is what we do here. And Patreon is a totally different animal. Patreon is a very more personal, raw show that is a lot of real talk. So I definitely could fit it in. The only thing I'm trying to figure out right now is when I would put this content online. Do I do it early in the morning before I go to my office? Do I do it in the late afternoon before it's dinner time and nighttime? Do I do it late at night? I don't know yet. But I am very, very close to doing a small daily update uploaded every day where we talk about little things from the day before. There's enough little things that some people overlook during the week because it's not a major story. But, I listen, I remember my hotline days, and I still have old hotline reports that I did 25 years ago. And it's pretty wild to go back to the year 2000 and hear yourself doing a hotline report. Any of you have heard any of the Blackheart stuff, you get an idea of what we used to do. So yeah, that is something seriously being considered. I just don't want to burn out. I got to be very careful. It's got to be easy. It's got to be easy. So if I do it, which I'm leaning towards it, it is not going to be live. Because if it's live, then you get sidetracked and then you start getting into other conversations. Not that I don't like doing that, but Monday, Friday, Patreon, those stay the way they are, and we add additional content. So that's definitely something on the horizon. If it happens, it'll happen within the next 2 weeks. So I just got to figure out when I do it. It can't interfere with, regular life too. So, but thank you, Chaos. That's something I am very much considering. So before we answer more questions in the live chat, want to just give a couple of quick comments on SmackDown tonight. First off, a little follow-up from last Friday's show. If you remember last Friday, I was talking about Legado. I was talking about Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, that they're not booked for this weekend's shows in Mexico. And, their comments were a little bit cryptic. It felt strange to really go over and above to apologize to the fans in Mexico that they weren't going to be on the card. And I said that, we don't know, if they're going to remain a tag team down the line because contracts were coming up. Now, a bunch of you brought to my attention that Angel Garza did re-sign very recently with WWE. Angel Garza is sticking around with WWE for the next 3 years unless he's released early. Humberto Carrillo, though, we don't know. I will tell you, and this might mean nothing, but Humberto Carrillo is kind of sped up a lot of his Xia Li pictures, is probably the best way I could put it. Any of you remember, Kev used to bring this up. Kev is great for calling that out. Towards the last couple of months of Xia Li's WWE career, she really amped up the number of pictures of her at the beach, her wearing bikinis, her sitting by the pool. And, Kev would address it. And Kev would be like, where's the pictures of her working out and trying to improve in the ring? And she's constantly hanging out at the pool. And she got released. I don't think she got released because of the pictures, but it just felt like the priorities were a little bit off. Humberto Carrillo is kind of going the Xia Li route the last month or two. If you look at his social media, there's a lot of modeling pictures. There's a lot of pictures by the pool. And it kind of reminds me of the Xia Li stuff. Listen, does Humberto Carrillo resign? Anybody's guess. But as of right now, as far as I know, Humberto Carrillo, his contract is coming up soon. Once we know, I will definitely relay to you. They did win tonight. They beat Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews. And I don't know. They changed Baron Corbin's music. I didn't like it. there's been a lot of themes I didn't like the first time I heard it, and then it kind of grew on me. But I was like, come on, people fucking popped for when they brought back the Lone Wolf song. And I get it. He wasn't a lone wolf tonight. He teamed up with Apollo Crews. But, man, when they lost that match, Corbin looked like he was going to attack Apollo Crews. Fuck this babyface shit. I don't know how I feel about that music that he came out to tonight. But Legado did defeat Apollo Crews and Baron. Baron Corbin did a dive outside the ring. So Baron Corbin is definitely a little bit hungry because he did a dive, which you don't ever see Corbin do. But towards the end of the match, Corbin dives outside the ring. He goes over the barricade with Humberto Carrillo. And Angel Garza is in the ring with Apollo Crews. And here comes Elektra Lopez with a little referee distraction. And then that allows Santos Escobar with the run in the ring, hit the high knee, and he takes out Apollo Crews. And Angel Garza pins Apollo Crews. So they get the win. He hit the wing clipper on Apollo Crews. And after the match was over, Baron Corbin was not very happy. So I don't know how I feel about Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. I just don't see how that gains any traction, with all due respect. You almost feel like a Baron Corbin's going to have to turn heel again. Obviously, the big story coming out of today is Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu tonight. He got a pop from the crowd. Let's be honest. Jacob Fatu came out and did what he did, especially the DIY, and I think that may lead to a tag team title match at SummerSlam. We might see Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. Tonga Loa, listen, nothing personal against Tonga Loa, but you and I kind of saw this about a month and a half ago. He does not give me strong Bloodline vibes. Like he just does not. I mean, I'm not saying that, and it's not because of the Camacho, that tag team from back in the day, Hunico, Camacho. It's not that. It's just something about him. He looks, my wife doesn't know about the entire Anoa'i family tree, bloodline, all this stuff. But she does know that this rogue bloodline is going to feud with the original bloodline. But when she saw Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga, she's like, these guys look like these Puerto Ricans you would see at a bodega in Corona, Queens. They don't necessarily look all that Samoan. Especially the way they dress, because a lot of Spanish people in my neck of the woods, especially on the weekends, they wear black jeans. Even in the summertime, they wear black jeans, black dress shirt, wear jewelry, have their hair slicked back, and a lot of tanning. And that's what they look like. He looks more like somebody that should be in the LWO than the bloodline. But I'm thinking Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga versus DIY, that may be on the horizon, because Tama Tonga came out because DIY retained their tag titles tonight, rematch with Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. I'm a little annoyed that they did not announce the rematch last week. We got a surprise tonight, but once again, Grayson Waller with an errant knee to Austin Theory, knocking Austin Theory out of the ring. That split is obviously coming. Would they dare go SummerSlam, Austin Theory, Grayson Waller? I think that might be a little bit too quick. Maybe they'll do the Grayson Waller effect with Austin Theory as a guest. Then maybe Austin Theory turns babyface at SummerSlam, and then maybe a Bad Blood. Maybe we get Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. But once again, Grayson Waller with an errant knee, and that allowed DIY to get the upper hand. DIY retaining their titles. They hit the Shatter Machine on Grayson Waller, and then immediately followed by the meeting in the middle. They pin Grayson Waller. But before you could even, because we thought right after the match, Theory and Waller would have their falling out. Didn't even get a chance. When Theory got his ass up outside the ring, here comes Jacob Fatu out of nowhere. Lays out Austin Theory, hits the ring, destroys DIY. Crowd popped. He looked tremendous. You know, out of the entire Rogue Bloodline right now, for me, you know, when Tama Tonga first came in and was doing what he was doing, I was extremely impressed. And yes, I've seen him work outside of WWE. I was very impressed with Tama Tonga, but to me, Jacob Fatu is on a different level. He has always been a big man, but he lost about 20, 30 pounds. And the shit that he was doing tonight, crowd was popping. That motherfucker, you know, listen, this is such a bad comparison, and it's not a comparison, and please forgive me. It's the first thing that just popped in my head. You saw Dynamite Wednesday. You remember the spot where Britt Baker was laying out security? It's not that a woman can't lay out a man, but Britt Baker took out 4 security guys. It was just really goofy to watch. And again, we saw Ronda Rousey do that with security guys. We saw Becky Lynch and Charlotte do it. You know, we were talking about their match earlier from WrestleMania. We saw a lot. We've seen dumb shit like that. But Britt Baker looked goofy laying out those security guys one at a time. Jacob Fatu tonight, taking on 3 guys technically, but mostly DIY. It didn't look like one person was standing in the corner waiting for the said wrestler to take out the other guy. Then you run in the ring, because that's what you see a lot of times when you see a 3-on-1, you know, where one guy beats up 3 guys or 4 guys. What happens? Randy Orton, they do that with Randy Orton in the past. One guy will run into the middle of the ring, Randy Orton will take him out, and then somebody else who's in the corner, he rides in the middle of the ring, he gets taken out, and each person takes a turn. Tonight, Jacob Fatu fucked up DIY that it wouldn't have mattered if they both went at him at the same time. He looked that good. He took out DIY, and I think that is designed for SummerSlam. My God, they're going to be in Cleveland. I really, my early vibe is, you know, as much as people think DIY is now massively over, which I'm happy for them, don't get me wrong, but if you're going to try to get Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu against those Cleveland fans that much more, you have them beat Johnny Gargano, you know, in Cleveland. That's just my take on it. But he fucking was a one-man wrecking machine tonight. He took out DIY, and then the Bloodline hit the ring. And Solo Sikoa, man, growing that set of balls, has no problem calling out Roman Reigns now. Hey, Roman, you want to come back? If he does come back, Roman will acknowledge me as your tribal chief. Crowd is chanting, we want Roman. He ain't coming back. That's what Solo keeps telling everyone. Solo Sikoa, big pair of balls now, calling out Roman Reigns. You know, now the question is when, but Cody Rhodes is on Solo's radar. Cody Rhodes comes out, confronts Solo Sikoa with the Bloodline in the ring. Obviously a big mistake. Now, earlier in the night, little seeds planted for Randy Orton as well. Randy Orton is seen in the locker room. Obviously, I don't have notes. I'm doing this all on memory. Randy Orton is in the locker room with Cody. And Randy's like, I know you're going to go out there tonight, take care of business. And I know you don't want me out there. But one thing that Randy Orton said that I laughed, because it was like, it felt like a Fed line than something he would say. He was like, when you go out there, you give that ugly Samoan a piece of your mind. I'm like, I don't think I would ever tell someone who's going to confront someone, you give him a piece of your mind. But Randy Orton told Cody Rhodes that once you're done with this Bloodline stuff, there's going to be a lot of people in that locker room coming after you for that championship. And I have your back no matter what. So those are the seeds planted. Randy Orton is going to ultimately turn on Cody Rhodes, and I think Bad Blood is the destination. Atlanta, Georgia, you can't paint it any better than that. So what ends up happening, Cody gets outnumbered. Randy hits the ring. Randy gets a little bit of brief offense, but then the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa gets Cody Rhodes tangled in the ropes. You know, listen, when Andre used to do it, it looked so good because his arms were so big and fat. And I don't mean that negatively. When Andre used to wrap his arms in the ropes and he couldn't get his arms untangled and you just beat on him, it was believable. You know, Cody getting his arms wrapped around the ropes was a real hard sell for me tonight. It looked goofy because Cody's just there like, no, choose me. And, you know, he's just, and Solo Sikoa is there. Now, ultimately, Solo Sikoa with the Samoan spike while Cody was tangled in the ropes. But as Cody is tangled in the ropes, Jacob Fatu with super kick after super kick after super kick to Randy Orton. Ultimately, Solo is in the ring with Cody, keeping him tangled. Jacob Fatu, Tamatonga Tangaloa, they do their shield powerbomb into the table to Randy Orton. The entire segment was hot. Crowd loved it. The only thing I did not like about it was the number of referees that would not put their hands on the wrestlers. If you go look at like anything that happens on Raw with Judgment Day or Drew McIntyre or anybody else, the referees, even, you know, if you remember after what happened at Money in the Bank, the referees are pulling wrestlers apart, trying to keep them back. You know, you look at even Braun Breaker, when the officials come out to try to stop Braun Breaker from doing what he does to Sami Zayn or Ilya Dragunov, these referees tonight, they look like Aubrey Edwards with male genitalia. They're all at ringside and they're like this. And they're just like watching everything. And I'm looking at it and I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're just standing there like, no, don't do it. No. And now Nick Aldis. What did Chelsea Green call him tonight? Prickles? Did you catch that? Nicholas the Prickles. The Prickles was not there. So that was good because there was no Nick Aldis at ringside threatening suspensions for what the Bloodline was doing. But all the referees at ringside, go watch it back. The Bloodline is doing whatever they feel like doing, and the referees are all like this, like they're gonna fly. They wouldn't put their hands. They didn't try to hold anybody back. They just let them do what they wanted to do. Especially when Randy Orton got put through the announcers table and Randy's selling, you know, the stinger to the back. Look at all the referees' faces. You would have thought like they just like smelled like a baby took a shit in a diaper. You ever like around a baby and then you're like they just like looking at Randy Orton in all his concern and they're doing nothing. They did absolutely nothing. That's the only thing I didn't like about it. All right. Speaking of Nick Aldis, we had a little comedy segment tonight. Chelsea Green in a neck brace. She wants to talk to Nick Aldis. She's outside Nick Aldis's office. Piper's with her. Pretty Deadly show up. They want to talk some business with Nick Aldis. Chelsea Green's like, you have to wait in line. Chelsea Green is first in line. She's right at that locker room door. And she's standing at that locker room door throughout the whole night. Halfway through the night, LA Knight comes out of the locker room, Nick Aldis's room, and he's got a contract in hand. So Chelsea Green is like, can I see him? And he's like, oh, he's getting a couple of things done. You know, he'll be out shortly. So she's like, oh, okay. So LA Knight goes to the ring. We'll get into that in a minute. Chelsea Green is still standing by the door. Now, this I liked because it kind of like indirectly, it was, you know, advancing the storyline. Chelsea Green and Pretty Deadly and Piper Niven is standing outside Nick Aldis's locker room, his office. That's a better way to put it. His office, the entire SmackDown. Later on in the night, Naomi takes on Blair Davenport and beats her. Match was decent, had a flurry of pin attempts, and Naomi got the final pin attempt. She got the 3. So after the match is over, Naomi's walking in the back, and she bumps into Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. As my wife said, they all talk like white blondes tonight. The way they were talking, they sounded like annoying blondes. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And they're like, like praising Naomi, taking care of business tonight. Naomi's talking about how they're going to get those tag titles back and everything. And they walk past Nick Aldis's office, and Chelsea Green is standing there with, Piper and Pretty Deadly. And Bianca says something to Naomi. And in conversation, Bianca is like, yeah, Nick Aldis is not even here tonight. And you look at Chelsea Green's reaction, it's just like, and they realized they were standing outside the office for nothing. So it was indirectly, it wasn't like Bianca was talking to Chelsea Green, but they were having conversation. They walked by and Bianca's like, yeah, Nick Aldis is not even here tonight. And that was funny. I hated the cheap shot by Blair Davenport in the back because honestly, a fucking blind person would have saw that coming. Somebody in a vegetative state would have saw that coming. Naomi's walking in the back and she sees Blair Davenport. And Blair Davenport's like, look, the better woman won tonight. Let's shake on it. Best woman won. I'll do better next time. Naomi shakes her hand and she starts walking off. I'm like, really? They're not going to have her attack her? And then sure enough, Blair Davenport attacks her. It was just so awful. I honestly said, listen, I like Blair Davenport. Something's not clicking. And I know it's still early, but just something is not clicking. I can't put my finger on it. Something is not clicking. Just my opinion. LA Knight, as I said, hit the ring. He's got a contract in his hand. Where he got the contract, I have no idea since Nick Aldis wasn't there. But anyway, he challenges Logan Paul at SummerSlam. He signed a contract. Logan Paul was not there tonight. So he wants Logan Paul to sign that contract. Now, Logan Paul will be on SmackDown next week. My guess is Logan Paul is either going to say no or Logan Paul's going to review it. Logan Paul may sneak in an additional clause in the deal, maybe add a little stipulation that would not benefit LA Knight, would probably hurt him big time if he lost. I think LA Knight is taking that title at SummerSlam. I think, you know what I've noticed on social media? And I know a lot of you have said it. I've said it. Kev said it. Every podcaster has said it. Over the last 12 months especially, last year we thought LA Knight was winning Money in the Bank. Over the last 12 months, LA Knight has not won any title whatsoever. He's had, the match with Roman Reigns, which we knew there was never going to be a chance of him winning, but he's had some opportunities, but has always come up short. They've hidden smoke and mirrors amongst Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and then there was a little bit of falling out and this and that, and then they did a little bit, they've kind of like blended him with others where he wasn't the standout focal point on his own. We're now a year later, and a lot of people feel if it doesn't happen at SummerSlam, then you have to start calling out WWE's usage of LA Knight. And I agree. I think LA Knight deserves more credit than we give him. And I give LA Knight a lot of credit. LA Knight I'm a big fan of. But I think we all should give him that much more credit. You know why? It is not easy to remain this over for this long and not have any championship to show for it. And I know what you all going to say. Titles don't mean anything. Oh, they're going to have 2 more WWE Women's Championships. Oh, AEW has too many belts, so does WWE. Somebody actually called me out on it on YouTube yesterday. And this is what I said about it. I said, you know what? The difference between AEW's championships and WWE's is this. And this is not a knock on AEW, it's just how I perceive it. For AEW, having a championship title in the background for a match on Dynamite, that's to try to enhance the match, to make the match feel more important than what it is. Even though 99 out of 100 times the titles never change hands on a Dynamite. Also, the wrestlers who are recognized as the big boys and the big girls in Tony Khan's eyes all have to have a toy. Everybody has to have a toy. It's almost like you work for, if you become an executive for a certain company, everybody gets a company car. Oh, you're going to be in management. Oh, you get a company car. You get a debit card. You could do what you want with it. That's what it feels like in AEW. How many matches did Mercedes Moné have before she became a champion? How many matches did Okada have or Will Ospreay really have before they became champions? How many matches did, the wrestlers who fancy Tony Khan's leg, who give him that special warm feeling, they have to have toys. They have to have the company car. Everybody has to have a prop to make them feel bigger. But when everybody has a championship, nobody has a championship. In the WWE, it feels that people are given championships to acknowledge their hard work. Back in the day, it was rare. We always used to bring up La Resistance. It's an outdated reference, but it's the best example I could give. Back in the day, WWE gave the tag titles to La Resistance. La Resistance was not one of the premier tag teams in the WWE at that time. They gave them the belts to try to elevate them. You usually give the belt to someone who's already been elevated, who has worked their way to the top, not to try to use it as a prop. That's what AEW does for some people. A lot of their champions don't need the belts that soon. But, but he has a belt. He has to have a belt. She's got a belt. She's got a belt. So that's the difference. But with LA Knight, having a championship, even if it's the U.S. title, that's an acknowledgement that WWE, although just the United States title, WWE said, he's the guy. He's the guy. He's the one that represents us with the championship belt. Did you see the pictures the other day with Braun Breaker and Big E at some sporting event? I don't remember what event it was. Maybe somebody in the chat could remind me. If you didn't see them yet, go look it up. Braun Breaker was with Big E the other day, and they were taking pictures. They were at some sporting event representing WWE. Braun Breaker had the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. He had a replica, obviously. He looked so fucking good with that belt. Everybody that saw the pictures, that's all I kept seeing over and over again. Holy shit, he looks fucking great with the belt. You don't put the belt on him simply because it looks good. You want to put the belt on the person because they have reached that pinnacle. Braun Breaker is not a champion as of yet, but they still had him posing with a championship. So LA Knight needs, for the fans need that acknowledgement from WWE that, yeah, he's the guy. Chad Gable is similar. Chad Gable has been there a lot longer, and Chad Gable was not handled as strong as LA Knight. A lot of people always perceived LA Knight to be all the way up here and Chad Gable over here. The more I watch Chad Gable, the more I feel Kurt Angle. He's not Kurt Angle. No one is Kurt Angle. But if you really listen to Chad Gable, and if you look at him and you look at his physique and you look at his offense and you see his personality, there is so much that I see Kurt Angle from back in the day. Chad Gable will become champion. When it happens, I don't know. But, sooner or later, people are going to get tired. Like, what the fuck? Why is it so hard for him to get a title? With Chad Gable, it's different now because there's big storylines going on, a little bit wacky. But with LA Knight, the time is now. No pun intended. His time is now. The fans need acknowledgement that WWE he's not just one of the more popular wrestlers there. He's over with the fans, but for WWE, they don't want to give him the ball. LA Knight was never the top guy in TNA. I don't think LA Knight will ever be the top guy in WWE, but that acknowledgement, recognized as a champion, is a big deal to a lot of fans. For a lot of fans, titles do matter. All right, just to wrap up some SmackDown for tonight. Meechin, God bless her, man. Kevin and I sing a lot of praise for her, but facts are facts. She puts up a good fight. She gets a little bit of a pop from the fans, but in the end, she loses singles matches 99 out of 100. And she took on Nia Jax tonight, ended up losing, ended up, eating the bonsai drop once again. The story about everything tonight about Nia and Meechin and Bayley started with Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton opened up SmackDown. She's touting her Money in the Bank win. She puts all the women's championships on notice. Roxanne Perez, Rhea Ripley, Bayley. Bayley comes out. They have a little bit of a conversation. Bayley talking about how she won in 19, I think it was. And, Tiffany Stratton kind of it was interesting tonight. Tiffany Stratton kind of playing off that Bayley is old. And Nia Jax tonight trying to play off that Bayley's got a Brazilian butt. Is that what BBL stands for? Something with a Brazilian ass? Is that what it's perceived, that Bayley gets injections in her ass or something? But it's interesting because now these days, DeMarcus says yes. Now these days, it seems like Bayley is old, but with a nice fat ass. And it's interesting, I always thought Bayley was cute. Did I ever have a crush on her? No, because, look at my age. Even 10 years ago, I'm still, I think, a little too old to be having crushes on WWE women. But I always thought Bayley was cute. But lately, we see, I don't know if you follow her social media, but I see on social media, like she's by the pool, not wearing bikinis, but she's by the pool and she's juggling. Or I think she was playing basketball the other day. And, like some of what she wears, you realize how thick she is. And that's not a negative thing. But even the other day, she appeared at some Netflix event, I think it was, and they had her wearing like a dress. And she's got curves to her. So, you realize, she even said tonight, this is not hugger Bayley. Because Nia Jax in 2017, 2019, she took out Bayley before SummerSlam. So now it's like Bayley is kind of like the old, veteran there with the big butt. Bayley's got a big old butt. But Tiffany Stratton, she's getting a little bit annoyed at Bayley. Why are you even out here? Bayley, talking about her history of Money in the Bank. Nia Jax interrupts. Bayley tries to tease a little wedge between Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton, saying that if Nia happens to beat Bayley at SummerSlam, maybe Tiffy's going to cash in. And Nia sees exactly through Bayley. Nia ends up telling Bayley she's going to be victimized at SummerSlam. She attacks Bayley along with Tiffany Stratton. So it's a 2-on-1, and here comes Meechin with the kendo stick to make the save. We go to commercial, we come back, and Meechin is taking on Nia Jax. Tiffany Stratton outside in the corner of Nia, and Bayley in the corner of Meechin. Meechin ultimately loses. After the match is over, a little post-match beatdown. Bayley tries to make the save. Bayley is laid out also. And as Nia Jax is walking out of the ring and Tiffany is patting her on the back, like, good job. Tiffy looks down. She sees Bayley laid out. She's got the briefcase in her hand, and the crowd is popping. Crowd wants that cash in. That's why I said last week, as much as I like DIY, I don't know how many fans actually pop because DIY won or because Austin Theory and Grayson Waller lost. Big difference there. Although I thought DIY did a great job tonight for a second week in a row. So as Nia walks out of the ring, Tiffy looks at the briefcase. She looks at Bayley. Crowd wants it. The Tiffy starts teasing that she's cashing in. Now, I hate the teases because every year we see the same shit. Somebody's about to cash in, somebody attacks them from behind, or somebody ends up getting into a brawl and the briefcase goes flying, or the referee, and it ends up there's no cash in. I'm kind of tired with it. Tonight was a little different, though. Tiffy's about to cash in, Then all of a sudden, Nia Jax is right in her face. She's like, what the fuck you doing? And Tiffany's like, nothing. That I liked, because every year it's like a bad Benny Hill episode. Like somebody's about to cash in. How many times do we see that with Damian Priest? Who had the briefcase a year or two ago that didn't R-Truth like steal it and run out of the building? Like we kept having like failed cash-ins. Like every time a person cashed in, somebody would get involved, and it got goofy after a while. Every year. Was it Damian Priest, Marvin? Really? Really? I'm kind of shocked that it was all with Damian Priest too. But I'm kind of tired of the teasing of the cash-ins and then something goes awry. But, oh yeah, you're right, Wayward. Sammy, that's right. Sammy did steal it from Damian Priest. Then Sammy gave it back, you pussy. The following week, right? He gave it back to Adam Pearce. Pussy. Kevin Owens was not there tonight. Obviously, his mom has been very ill. I don't have any update. I was looking online to see if there was updates. I'm a little concerned because, you know, when you're in the hospital and you're older and she has the health issues that we hear that she does, I'm not going to say what they are because I don't know if it's true. I don't know what's true and what's not. All I do know is it's serious. After a week, 10 days, you know, you start really getting concerned, like, man, you know, I hope she can pull through, seriously. So yeah, prayers to Kevin Owens and his family. You know, he was not there tonight. They gave him time to be with his family. So, you know, we'll find out soon enough what ends up happening. Something else I want to shout out. That's why I had the GoFundMe link at the beginning of the show. No one is obligated. I just want to plug something in a few moments. One other thing I do want to bring up tonight is we're going to see a little mini feud with Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. There was an interview with Byron Saxton and Andrade in an empty arena. You know, what's next for Andrade? You know, him with his broken English talking about, you know, being the MVP at Money in the Bank. Carmelo Hayes enters the empty arena. Carmelo Hayes is like, why are you wasting your time on him? You should be interviewing me. I'm sick and tired of being mistreated here. I was the first round draft pick, and I took on Cody in my first night. I deserve the time. And Andrade is like, tranquilo. I no say I MVP. The fan, they say MVP. They end up having some words. They're going to have a match next week. It's not SummerSlam level, but they're going to have a match next week. Marvin is laughing. Listen, we all like Andrade, but, you know, I don't know what you do with him. There's some people that have it or have something, and unfortunately not a perfect fit. You know, sometimes two people are not compatible. Sometimes a player on a sports team, it doesn't gel. It doesn't work. How many times, for you baseball fans out there, how many times has a baseball team signed a player is a star, goes on the team, can't put it together. You give them plenty of time, can't put it together. They get let go. They go on another team and they fucking kill it. Just sometimes it's not meant to be. Seriously, how do you get Andrade to the next level? I don't think you can. How? Seriously, you almost feel like he's got a feud with a Latino. I'm glad at the response that Kevin and I got on Monday, because in 2024, sometimes Kevin and I, after we do shows, are like, man, I hope people understand what we were trying to say. When we were saying, like, a lot of Latinos in the WWE right now, like, they wrestle Latino. What I mean by that is, like, their Latino is part of their gimmick. You look at the LWO, you look at Legado del Fantasma, you look at Andrade. It's almost like their Latino has to be part of whatever they're doing. And now I'm starting to feel like Andrade is probably going to have to feud with fucking Rey Mysterio. or get involved with some. Even when he first came in, do you remember? Remember when Andrade first came back? Who was he showing up with? Dominic Mysterio. Dominic. You know, even Santos at times. Santos would show up. Dominic. Carlito. And Carlito, Puerto Rico, but Carlito. Who's Dominic? You know, even Damian Priest. Damian Priest, not so much. But Damian Priest, Kevin and I were pointing out on Monday. Whenever he talks to Rhea Ripley, he's talking Spanish. Every time he sees Dominic with Liv Morgan, he's like, Wepa. He talks Spanish all the time. All right. Just very quickly, I swear to you, this is not to put myself over. The only reason why I'm showing you the pictures is to magnify why I'm putting this up. A lot of you know, back in the day, in the mid to late 2000s, 2010s, I did work for some wrestling promotions, and I also did managerial work on the indie circuit, was involved in a few matches, got my ass kicked plenty of times. My stuff was not good, but one thing that I was always very, very appreciative of. How many of you out there remember Doug Gentry that used to be our video? I think he was involved with Ring of Honor as well. Doug Gentry. He passed away many years ago. Doug Gentry also did commentary, and a couple of indie events that I was on, he always made my stuff sound like $1 million. When I got put through the table with thumbtacks, got a bottle broken over my head, another time I got knocked out with a chair, got dove on from someone, he always made it sound 1,000 times better than what it was. But also in photography, in video. And there is a young lady by the name of Christine Coons, Coons. She's still alive, but she was a photographer for a lot of wrestling companies. She did a lot of work for Ring of Honor. She did work for USA Pro Wrestling, UXW. She did work for IWA Mid-South, photographer for countless years. And I found out recently she had a stroke. And she has medical coverage. But from what I heard, her deductible is $10,000. And she's got co-pays. And she's in $15,000, $20,000 in the hole. And she just got out of the hospital. So I posted this GoFundMe link, but I wanted you all to see. This is actually just a sample. These are pictures. If you look at the photos closely, you will see Christine Coons on the bottom. Christine J. Coons. We used to call her CJ. She was the photographer for a lot of events that I was involved in. And she always made it her business to make our shit look so much better. This is me with Louis putting Ajax on his head. And she always made certain to make it look like, everything we did was tremendous. And these photos she actually took. Here's me getting chair bashed by Louis. Then you'll see I got getting a bottle broken over my head. And I know, it's bullshit wrestling, as Jim Cornette called it, but it was fun. It was an adrenaline rush, and I loved doing everything I did with Louis. Here's me getting put on a table with thumbtacks. I didn't get slammed on that table. I actually laid on that table for about 45 seconds. Look at that picture. Do you have any idea how much it hurts to lay on a table with thumbtacks under you for 45 seconds? She took all these pictures, and I have plenty others as well. And the most famous picture from back in the day that everybody remembers me by is coming up now. And she took my first ever photo doing any indie wrestling work at all. And it's this one, as you will see right now. That is the photo that everybody remembers of me. That was 18 years ago. And that photo was on my MySpace. That photo was on the Facebook. I used to sign those photos. She was the one responsible for so many of the things that I did. And there's so many other photos that I have to pull from my old hard drive. But that is the GoFundMe link for Christine. For those that are on audio only, is gofund.me/56E55075. If you need the link repeated, just rewind it. In 2024, you got to do is just backtrack a few seconds. You don't have to, this isn't cassettes where you have to hit the rewind button and find the spot. But if you can contribute something, by all means. I already sent something on behalf of the DTKC show. And even if you can't, just post a link somewhere. There's a lot of people in wrestling that have gone out of their way to either, send her something or at least post a link. So I hope she has a speedy recovery. I haven't talked to her in years, but back in the day, she was an absolute sweetheart, and she always went out of her way to make somebody's stuff look good. She made my stuff look 1,000 times better than what it was. So prayers go out to Christine. All right. We've run an hour and 45 minutes. Let's spend a few more minutes answering questions. Somebody had asked earlier that I definitely wanted to mention. My thoughts on Ethan Page becoming NXT World Champion. I like it. I like the circumstances around it. Ethan Page, I've always liked. I've always sung the praise for him in AEW. Do I think he'll ever be WWE World Champion on the main roster? No. Not everybody is cut out for that role. Not everybody. Listen, I've always compared it to movies. There are people that are great as being best supporting actors. Not everybody should have the lead role. For NXT, though, opportunist, got lucky, that fits it perfect. Ethan Page, he's got the pretty boy look. He's got the physique. He's got the talent. He is a very, very cool, fun guy. People that I know him say he's a pisser. He's hilarious. He's a really good guy. As far as the world of wrestling goes, he's someone you want to see get punched in the mouth. So when this guy just falls backwards and lands on Javon Evans and pins him, he didn't even realize he got pinned. That couldn't have been done any better. I like that decision 1,000 times more than if he would have beat Trick Williams one-on-one. Because this was not somebody getting buried. This was not, put him on the fast track because he came from AEW. This was abrupt, unexpected. I love the way they did it. And you know what? For the opening quarter of NXT this week, NXT only did mid-6s. But for the opening quarter, for Ethan Page and everything else that went down, it led to the main event with Joe Hendry and Trick Williams versus Ethan Page and Sean Spears. That viewership was 200,000 more than the week prior to open it up. No Big Bang lead-ins. There was more interest. Yes, we were coming out of NXT Heatwave, but still, that opening quarter was over 200,000 viewers more than the week prior, which says a lot. It says a lot. I like the way they did it. And, it doesn't hurt Trick Williams in any way whatsoever. Trick Williams wasn't even pinned. So ultimately, I think Trick Williams will get that championship back. It's just a matter of time. And a lot of people also feel that Trick Williams should be chasing the title. Some people, listen, Trick Williams should be a champion. I'm not saying that he shouldn't. Some people are better chasing the title than being the champion. The all-time greatest was Dusty Rhodes, obviously. Dream 101, sending a 2-spot with a question that I don't know if any of us could answer. My friends, Who can save this country? Listen, I don't like politics anymore. I think both sides lie. I think both sides only try to push their own agendas. But I will say this. Whether Reagan was the president, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, we are still a free country. It hasn't turned into a communist country. People saying if Trump gets elected, we're going to lose our freedom and our rights. If Biden gets reelected, this and that, understand that Democrats run power. They're always going to push their agenda. Republicans have power. They're always going to push their agenda. There's no one person or one party that can save us. The only way we can save this country is if we save it ourselves. Unfortunately for me at my age, I realize that no matter who I vote for doesn't change a damn thing. And I know that sounds pretty fucked up and everything, but I have supported so many people over the years and it got me diddly squat. So now I prefer to just enjoy myself, have fun, live a good life, spend time with my family, my friends, my dogs, my wife, you guys, enjoy my hobbies, and that's it. When it's my time to go, I had fun. So, you look at the economy, you look at the amount of debt we have. How is that going to get any better? I mean, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm trying to be the opposite. Just enjoy yourselves. Don't do anything illegal. Just enjoy yourselves. Have fun. Treat people like you want to be treated. And if you treat somebody good and they treat you like shit, write them off. That's it. That's how I look at it. Seriously. Just treat people like you want to be treated. And that's it. There's many people that I treat really, really well, and I get kicked in the nuts in return. And I just write it off like, you know what? Fuck them. I don't even get aggravated anymore. Seriously. So no, nobody can save this country. Just enjoy yourself and circle yourself around people and things that make you happy. Just make yourself happy. That's all that matters. That's my advice. No one of us individually is going to be able to do anything. So just enjoy yourself. The happier you are, that might rub off on someone else. Listen, I know it's cliche. I always felt good overcomes evil. And you know why I say that? Because if I'm surrounded by evil and hopelessness, then I'm going to be like, the fuck do I have to lose? Look at everybody else, and you kind of fall into that trap too. But you know what? If you circle yourselves around positive and good people, now I'm not making it sound like everything's cake and ice cream, but if you surround yourself with positive, happy people, you might come across someone who's a miserable son of a bitch. And they might see everybody having a good time, laughing, taking it easy. And they might say, you know what? I want some of that. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of enjoying myself. That's what I kind of feel like. You know what? If you're around, more uplifting people, then, you might be able to change somebody's mind. That's how I look at it. So, Ronald McDonald. I don't like Ronald, that fucking clown. That clown. Oh, shit. There is something I need to do. There is something I need to do. I overlooked a super shout out from last week. And this is Jimmy Fingers. And I know Jimmy is here with us tonight. I told you I was going to open up with this tonight, and I'm sorry I forgot, but I wanted to make sure I bring it up tonight. Jimmy sent the 20 spot last week, and I didn't see it until after the show was over, and there was no way for me to start things up again. So, Jimmy, he says, DT, we both started watching wrestling around the same time. What was the exact angle or match that had me counting the days for the following week? For him, it was the first sight of Andre doing a run-in on Killer Khan. For me, early on, there was no one individual moment. I became a wrestling fan in 1979. I got the wrestling magazines, and here's the thing about me becoming a fan in 79. Bob Backlund already won the championship. Bob Backlund had already feuded with superstar Billy Graham, not karate version, but, when he was champion. I wasn't a wrestling fan yet. When I became a wrestling fan in 79, I think Bob Backlund was going to feud with Pat Patterson. I think High Chief Peter Maivia he might have had a match against. Bob Backlund was just going through a bunch of people. I think he even had a match with Morocco in 79. When I got the magazines in 79, I was able to order older magazines. And I got the older magazines of Bruno feuding with superstar Billy Graham feuding with Dusty Rhodes. Trust me, Dusty Rhodes was never brought to the WWF in the 70s to become world heavyweight champion, no matter what Cody wants to tell you or anybody wants you to believe in 2024. Dusty Rhodes was an attraction, regional, just for a cup of coffee, and then he was going back to where he made his money. He was a special attraction, just like Mil Mascaras. If anybody remembers the WWF in the late 70s, Mil Mascaras came in the same way that Dusty Rhodes came in. And you don't see anybody saying, oh, Mil Mascaras was supposed to be champion. Mil Mascaras feuded with superstar Billy Graham also. Dusty Rhodes was never supposed to be world heavyweight champion in the 70s when he feuded with superstar Billy Graham. That is flat out lie. And when he came in, he wrestled on occasion until 1982, I think it was. 82 or 83. Kev knows this answer. Dusty came in sporadically up until 82 or 83, and then there was the fallout, I think, with, I don't know, it was Crockett or whoever it was at the time, and then Dusty was not around anymore until Dusty came back in the latter part of the 80s. But when I got the back issues and started getting, acknowledging superstar Billy Graham, that got me into a lot of the more old school stuff. For me, the match that probably got me to really, really want to look forward to the next one is probably Snooker Backlund, which was 82. Morocco, I think Pedro, with not 83, but around that time, maybe even the tag championships when they had, it wasn't Fuji and Saito. I think it was the Wild Samoans, and then it was Rick Martel and Tony Gurria. So there was a few, but understand, when I became a fan in 79, I did not get to watch wrestling every single week. My grandmother used to let me see it. My mom was totally against it. I was a preteen. I wasn't even 10 years old yet when I started watching wrestling. So it wasn't until I became 12, 13 years old that I really started to get into the feuds. And Killer Khan was a good one with Andre, absolutely. But I don't think that was my first. Killer Khan used to scare the shit out of me. That guy used to scare the shit out of me. When he used to scream like that, then later on in years, I used to laugh at him. He sounded like he would step on a nail. He kind of sounded like the Chinese version of Tom from Tom and Jerry. You ever watch Tom and Jerry when Tom used to step on something, somebody would cut off his tail, and he would just and then he would scream at the top of his lungs? That was like Killer Khan. But he was Japanese version of it, or Chinese, whatever he was. So rest in peace, Killer Khan. I think he died not too long ago, right? I think so. All right. Theme parks and things. DT, I don't know if you got it, but on the Patreon show, it's funny. I forgot what is about, but you told us to remind you today to talk about something. Maybe you'll remember. Oh, Ronnie took care of it earlier. I said if anybody wants me to talk about the Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer stuff with Sol Ruca and the match with not Jada Parker. Oh God. My God, I'm drawing a fucking blank right now. Kalani Jordan. That's right. Carmelo Hayes' girlfriend. That's that match. Their reaction was just weird. Just weird. just recognize that they put on a good fucking match. The crowd was into it. They did a nice job. Just acknowledge that they did a good job. Raul Harris, thoughts on the $1 Million Mania storyline? We just passed the anniversary of it. You know, Kevin and I did shows at that time. Those would be a couple of fun episodes to repost. You know why? The $1 Million Mania storyline was just to try to boost ratings. That's all it was. And it didn't work. It did not work. They might have had 100. Listen, I haven't researched it since it happened, but I think it might have had 150,000 viewership increase. Like, they thought we were going to get hundreds of thousands of viewers to tune in because at any time, you know, somebody could have won $1 million. What I remember from it is Vince McMahon, and I remember the attempted calls, and it wasn't working. And after a few weeks, didn't the stage implode and Vince took a fall, and that's how they ended the story? It was a disaster. It was an attempt to boost ratings, but it did not work. I do remember it did not work. And when they did the abrupt ending to the stage, we were like, good, get this shit off the show. I did not like it. You know what I also did not like? Do you remember In Your House? Somebody actually won a house back then. And I remember this was, I think, 1995. I might have the year wrong, but for some reason I'm thinking 95. They had In Your House where somebody won a house. And I don't remember. I think a kid might have. Why do I keep thinking of a kid? Because I remember whoever won, I could have sworn at the time, I was like, how could that person win? Don't you have to be a certain age? Oh, Twix says 1994. It was, yeah, okay. But for some reason, I remember a kid. Maybe it wasn't a kid. Maybe, you know, somebody older, but happened to have a kid. But yeah, In Your House. But yeah, that $1 Million Mania thing was just terrible. You know, I would have rather had it where they gave away smaller things. I personally think if you would have gave away 10 winners, 10 G's a piece, 100 G's, you know, of course, you're not going to call 10 people up on an episode of Raw, but they could have done something where, you know, all right, here's the code, and, you know, at this time you call in this number and whoever gets it, they listen, it's not my job to come up with the right scenario, but I personally think if they would have done more prizes, but smaller amounts, I think more people would have given it a shot. Extreme D says it was a kid that won it, but he sold the house. How did a kid, I knew I remember a kid. How did they allow a kid to win it? That's the thing I don't understand. Why wouldn't it just be you have to be 18 or older to enter? I mean, I understand WWF in the mid-90s was more goofy gimmicks and more kid-friendly, but still, how do you have a contest like that and not say must be 18 or older to participate? I don't know how they got away with that. The kid had to pay taxes. That I do remember. The kid had to pay taxes. When he sold the house, that's considered income. Whatever he sold the house for, he had to pay tax. That's why, for some of you out there that don't know this, when you go on a game show, especially back in the day, this is true. Places like The Price is Right and others, there's some infamous stories where some people won big prizes and they didn't claim them because the amount of taxes that they had to pay to get the prize, some people were like, I can't afford the taxes. And I remember California specifically because I remember somebody winning a big prize, like I can't afford $6,000-$7,000 in taxes. And that's back in the 70s or the 80s. So Tristan is asking my thoughts on Stone Cold Booker T's supermarket fight. Price check on a jackass. That was great. That was spectacular. what I'll always remember about that now, unfortunately, is that was on SmackDown. And I think WWE in the last 2 years did the greatest SmackDown moments of all time. And I don't think it was on the top 10. I don't remember if it was in the top list. I know it wasn't on the top 10 because I remember like it was almost completely ignored. It was just bizarre the way it was handled. It was an awesome segment. It was an awesome segment. I thought the feud was great. I don't know if anybody remembers the controversy about Booker T's penis at the time. Does anybody remember that controversy? I was doing my hotline at the time. When we saw it on TV, understand, we did not have YouTube. We did not have replays on the internet. We just had what we saw on television. And the way Booker T was laid out when they went to the register or the shopping cart, whatever it was, and the way his pants were positioned, it looked like his penis was hanging out of his pants. Even though his zipper wasn't undone or anything like that, there was this wild claim going around at the time that Booker T's penis came out during the final part of that segment. And it ended up that it was not true. It was just the lighting and the way it reflected. Who had the shirt? Who from the WWE had that shirt that looked like a giant penis also? Was that Kalisto? Was that Kalisto or was that Sin Cara? Oh, it was Sin Cara. Anybody remember the Sin Cara shirt? WWE came out with a Sin Cara shirt. You go do Google image, you'll find it. WWE, in fact, maybe I can pull it up really quick and I'll post it in the live chat and then we'll get out of here because it's running a little bit late. Sin Cara penis shirt. Let's see if it comes up. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is fucking great. This is great. I'm going to post a link in the live chat right now. If anybody goes back and watches the replay, just look at 2 hours and 6 minutes in. This shirt, if you look at the bottom part, it looks like a giant penis, erect giant penis. In fact, there's even a Reddit post that I'm going to post also right now. If you look at this Reddit post, they actually circle it. They came out with how does that pass WWE's? It's like that. It's like this. I always bring this up. Here, look. I always bring this up because I still have it original with the packaging. Look, it's never been, look, the label's still here. This was a Sting toy that came out in 2000, I think it was. Who in WCW went up to Sting and said, "Hey, Stinger, we want to come out with this Sting figure. What do you think, Sting?" Like, seriously, why wouldn't Sting say, "What do I look like, fucking a white Don King with face paint? Would I stick my penis in an outlet?" This was the beanbag brawlers. Like, who comes up with that? Look at that Sin Cara shirt. How does that pass? And they made it and marketed it. It looks like a giant erect penis. They ended up pulling the shirt. All right, we're going to take this home in the next 5 minutes. Shout out to one of our made men, DeMarcus, and one of our Patreon APs as well. What's up, DT? Cody versus Randy at Bad Blood. My current favorite versus my favorite of all time. Very excited for the story that will be told. Yeah, I'll tell you this much. There are quite a few people out there that think Randy may actually win the belt. I don't know how anybody would feel if Randy Orton won the belt at Bad Blood. Does Cody Rhodes need to have at least a 1-year title reign to be considered a legitimate run? I'm not so sure about that. I think Cody Rhodes, there's so much Dusty that was incorporated in this Cody Rhodes build. And it still continues to this day. If when Kevin and I were bringing up a year ago, Dusty Rhodes and chasing for the title and the bumps in the road and, the feuds that he had and the similarities. Once Cody finished his story, remember the next day, the story is never finished. New chapter begins. And just because Cody won the championship at WrestleMania 40 doesn't mean that the Dusty part of his career ends also. There is still Dusty going on. And for some people out there, Cody Rhodes chasing the title might be, better fit, depending on who is champion, obviously. A lot of people think down the line, Cody Rhodes could end up being a fucking great-ass heel. Dusty Rhodes never liked him as a heel. They tried to turn him heel in the NWO stuff, did not like it at all. I always, Dusty Rhodes was a heel in the early 70s. Did a damn good job with Dick Murdoch. But once Dusty Rhodes became the American Dream, and being the common man, that was it. That was it. You never change it. There's no reason to, because everybody thought that was the most authentic Dusty Rhodes. He was just like us. Cody Rhodes, not necessarily. As much as Cody Rhodes has put in the work and is definitely the number one guy in the WWE and has earned it, Cody Rhodes is not the common man. Cody Rhodes doesn't have the pot belly like Dusty did. Cody Rhodes didn't look like someone who could be somebody's janitor or somebody's car mechanic or somebody that might have to work 2-3 jobs just to get by. Dusty Rhodes, there was so much about Dusty that, people, were able to relate to. Cody Rhodes is a little bit different. Cody Rhodes, sometimes people feel like he's got born with a spoon in his mouth. So it'll be easier for Cody to be turned heel than Dusty would have ever have. But Randy Orton, that is going to be a hot feud, man. And you know what's great about it? Because they are good friends, they're going to put a lot of effort into this. Look, in the TKO era of WWE, Endeavor, WWE, not Vince's, but Endeavor's WWE, business is different. You have people owning WWE that were not wrestling people. This is all bottom line, and it's also big money. I think there's more money to be made now under TKO and Endeavor than there was under Vince. Because under Vince, at the end of the day, even for stockholders, you know what? You're a wrestler and you are expendable. And you could be easily replaced by this person. No problem. We could bring this person. We got Brock. We got this. We got that. For TKO and for Endeavor, hey, if done the right way, we could generate 10, 20, $30 million off of one person or one big storyline. Cena is going to draw so much goddamn money. It's not even, you can't even imagine. All of those countries that they go to in 2025, there's going to be custom shirts, $50 a pop, memorabilia, autograph stuff, ticket sales. The amount of money that Cena's going to bring in during 2025 is going to be mind-boggling. So with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, not only is there money to be made, but the fact that they are good friends, you want to work even harder for your friends. Even if that sounds selfish, they will work their asses off. And I think they'll put on a great fucking job. And if Randy beats Cody, that would be something interesting to visit down that line. So, because remember, you still have the Bloodline versus Bloodline that hasn't even started yet. Jimmy and Jay probably show up at SummerSlam. Roman Reigns, possibility. That's only 2 weeks away. We're not that far away from SummerSlam. It is getting here a lot faster than you realize. All right. We'll take 3 more, and then we're going to jet for tonight. Triple X. What's up? IDT WWE keeps pushing the catapulting of Hulkamania was WrestleMania 3. WWE keeps pushing that the catapulting of Hulkamania was WrestleMania 3. Truth is, the catapult was Hulk and Iron Sheik. In fact, Iran was an enemy back then. Listen, I was there when Hogan beat Sheik. I know a million people have said they're there, but you got me on video to back it up. But I will tell you this. I was one of the biggest Hulkamaniacs at the time. My grandmother, her most favorite wrestler to her grave was Hulk Hogan. I will tell you, when Hulk Hogan came in and beat the Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan was not there for very long. Bob Backlund lost to the Iron Sheik. Bob Backlund is the one who brought Hulk Hogan technically back to the WWF. Bob Backlund was going to, I don't remember the exact details, but Bob Backlund was going to have a match. And then for some reason went into the back. I don't know if it was the Wild Samoans, but Backlund was going to have a match at a house show in front of 300 people, walks to the back, comes back out with Hulk Hogan. And the place lost their shit. But Hogan was not there all that long. So Hulkamania, there was a momentum because of Rocky III. There was also a momentum because of AWA. Now, AWA was not nationwide television. Everybody knew Hogan from Rocky III, Johnny Carson, couple of TV shows. And then when Hogan came to the WWF, at first, it was still regional. When Hulk Hogan won the title in 83, January of 83, I think it was, or was, no, 84. When he won the title in 84, he was still regional. WWF was not, nationwide household. When WrestleMania 1 happened, that's where it catapulted. The Rock and Wrestling Connection, Cyndi Lauper, Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, Roddy Piper, Eye the Tiger, everything like that. That's where Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania catapulted. When he beat Andre the Giant, that took it to an even bigger level. So no, I agree with you that Hogan did not catapult in WrestleMania 3. WrestleMania 1, war to settle a score. Things like that is where Hulkamania went to a different level. But once he got to WrestleMania 3, that's where it was like superhero status. That's kind of how I look at it back then. But I agree with you. WrestleMania 3 was not where Hulkamania, took off. And believe me, there were some people that wanted Andre to win. Near wants to know, what are my thoughts on the Joe Hendry phenomenon? It's fun. It is fun because he was not a household name. It is not often that a wrestler, no matter what company they work for, but it's not very often. In fact, I don't even know if we could come up with 5. It's not often where somebody becomes almost like an internet phenomenon. And because of that, they ended up getting recognized and getting nationwide major TV status. And please do not tell me, woo, woo, woo. He was already a WWE star. Matt Cardona was already a WWE superstar. He used the internet to get himself to a whole different level. But a Joe Hendry stuff, let me tell you something, really. You look back 20 years, give me 5 people who majority of wrestling fans didn't know who the fuck they were and just became viral on the internet to the point where WWE, had to acknowledge them and bring them in, even for as a guest or for a cameo or for a cup of coffee. It rarely ever happens. I mean, I don't even know if I can come up with 5. Really. That's something you all could think about. Post it in the comment section after the show is over. Near is saying it never happened. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that was, let me say it like this. There's got to be a wrestler, might have even been a women's wrestler. There's got to be somebody that was not a household name, but had a really strong internet following, and people were pushing for them to get a tryout match with WWE. The more I think about it, somebody had to have gotten a tryout at the Performance Center. There's got to be somebody. And the more I think about it, the more I feel like there is somebody. It's just not coming to our mind right now, but there's got to be somebody who really was doing a really good job on the indies that people were really pushing to get a tryout and got a tryout and got a shot. I do not put Danhausen in that. Danhausen is more of comedy and, he, you know what? That's not that bad. No, the more I think about it, that's not that bad. Danhausen is not that bad. Sin Cara is not one. Sin Cara was actually pretty well known as far as Mexican wrestling goes. I'm talking about, listen, I think we're getting a little off topic on this. We're talking about somebody who used the internet and became viral. Sin Cara was never viral online other than a penis shirt. And he was already a WWE star at that time. Danhausen was not an AEW star when he started going viral online. Danhausen is not a bad one. The more I think about it, that's actually not that bad of one. Richard Holiday, he's still got time. It's having a weird, goofy, lighthearted, fun gimmick. It's not as easy as it sounds, especially in this day and age. It's very cliche. Just think of that GIF file that everybody goes around and it's literally just Joe Henry turning around and smiling and doing this. And everybody just, I'm sure a lot of you remember about a month and a half ago, I talked about it on the shows and I tweeted about it. I started getting all of these DMs and emails from people that don't even know each other, like, DT, got to look at this, got to go check it out. I open up and it's a picture of Joe Hendry. And then once I mentioned it on the show, people did it even more. DT, did you hear who died? I opened it up and it's Joe Hendry going like this. I'm like, come on. All right, let's do two more. Bobby Means, what's up? Do I see a possible Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, or Survivor Series going international? Yes. By the way, we're at 2 hours, 22 minutes. So let's just go 2.5 hours. So we'll stick around a little longer. Let's see if we go even. Yeah, definitely. I think Saudi Arabia could get one. SummerSlam is going to start becoming a 2-night event. I don't think you're going to have like Survivor Series 2 nights or Royal Rumble 2 nights. Even though Royal Rumble could become 2 nights, you have men's Royal Rumble on one night, women's Royal Rumble on another night. I could see that possibly happening. It might be overkill. Listen, WWE is riding some big time high right now. And they are set for the next 2 years. Last year, they got Rock, Cody, Bloodline, Roman. This year, it's really Bloodline. Because remember, Rock was April. So it was only 1/3 of the year. But this year, it's going to be Bloodline. Next year, it's going to be Roman, Rock, and then Cena retirement. Then the following year, who knows what it's going to be. And then the year after that, MJF might become available. And then someone else might become available. They are set for the next 2-3 years of some serious money being made. But after a while, that gravy train, you're going to start running into dilemmas. Not everybody that we love that's a wrestler is a household name outside of wrestling. So, but yeah, I definitely see it. I see Saudi Arabia getting one. They will go to a country where they could make crazy money. I mean, this, at the end of the day, this is about revenue. It's about revenue, and Netflix is a big fucking deal. Saudi Arabia was a big fucking deal. Going international and going to all these places is a big fucking deal. And the prices that they're going to command in 2025, even in the United States, if Cena is on some of these shows and Roman returns for some of these shows, there's going to be some serious, the amount of revenue that's going to come in is going to be serious money. And listen, WWE is always a money-making machine. It's going to be even bigger next year. Look at UFC's revenue compared to WWE. That is what is starting to happen. I know Meltzer and Cornette and everyone else has not talked about this yet, and it's not a criticism towards them, but I will tell you this so you could stay ahead of the pulse with this. Endeavor TKO Group Holdings, that now owns WWE, you need to pay attention to UFC's revenue last year. You don't have to do a whole research on it. Do not go to WrestleNomics or anything like that. It's not a shot on them, but they're wrestling. UFC is a different animal. When you look it up, you'll be blown away by how much revenue UFC made. But more importantly, you'll be blown away by how few fighters they have on contract compared to WWE. UFC makes an insane amount of money with far less people. WWE many times has to have a crazy number of events and a whole shitload of people working to equal that kind of revenue. As time goes by, Endeavor and UFC and TKO is going to try to morph WWE's business similar to the UFC platform. That's why sometimes you only see 5 matches. That's why sometimes it feels like WrestleMania now is a 1 or a 2 match event. If you look at WrestleMania 40 this year, yes, a Damian Priest documentary is coming out. Yes, some other stuff is going to come out. But 10 years from now, based on so far, WrestleMania will be 40, will be remembered for 2 matches. WWE wants you to remember it for 2 matches more than anything else. And WrestleMania is a lot more than that. But you see them slowly morphing the UFC engine, that template with WWE. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle things and to see if they get rid of some wrestlers. I don't think they'll do full-blown roster splits again, though. You will have, individual shows, obviously, because of the logistics, but full-blown roster splits, no, because if they can make record revenue in a particular country, the Raw roster may not be strong enough on its own. You may need a Cody Rhodes on there. You may need ultimately a Roman Reigns on there. A lot of people are upset that Roman Reigns is not on the Mexico shows this weekend. Obviously they have enough people to, still fill it, but, Cody will be there, obviously. So, all right. Let's see. Benjamin, my thoughts on MJF's forced heel turn. One of our patrons, Rams fan, I think he's a channel member too on YouTube, said it perfectly last week. It feels like they turned MJF heel so he's not part of Team AEW against the Elite at Blood and Guts. That's what it feels like. It feels like they did that to prevent that immediately. I also do feel that ultimately he may end up taking on Swerve for the heavyweight championship. I'm a little surprised it's not happening at All In, but maybe it happens at All Out. My problem with MJF's return is similar to what the problem was with Mercedes, but AEW is fixing the Mercedes Moné problem right now. I hate repeating myself, but Mercedes, when she first went to AEW, she should have been a monster heel that night. Even if Boston cheered the shit out of her, she just said, I want that, I want that, I want that belt, I want that. Who are you? I want that. I wanted her to come in. I wanted the AEW fan base to think, the fuck does she think she is? She ain't WWE anymore. Tell this conceited, greedy bitch to get out of here. That's what they should have done since day one. They're fixing it now. But for MJF, the devil, should have came in and said what he said last year. The Triple B meant everything to him. He said it 10,000 times last year. The triple B, the triple B, the triple B means everything. Everything, the triple B, the triple B. That should have been the first thing out of his mouth when he came back. I want my belt back. I want my belt back. And what they're doing now, it's like diversions. I don't like it. But ultimately, I think they'll fix it. All right. Let's get out of here. We're at 2.5 hours. I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We have Raw this Monday. And listen, I want to see what happens next with WYATT 6. I want to see what happens next. I absolutely loved that Bo Dallas, Taylor Rotunda, was in that office dressed normal. It put an exclamation point on what Kevin and I said the week before about that dumb rant that Mark Henry and Bully Ray made about them dressing normal going to a Whataburger. They're psychos, they're monsters, and you dress normal at a Whataburger. You look at some of the biggest mass murderers in history that look like attorneys, look like preppies, look like everyday people. Some of the craziest, sickest psychopaths would look like the person next door. Absolutely love the fact that he wasn't Uncle Howdy sitting in the chair, waiting. You know, there you are. Seriously, they could have done that. Adam Pearce could open the door and it could have been Uncle Howdy going, there you are. But no, they had Taylor dressed as Taylor. Fucking loved it. Backed up everything he said. That's the difference between what they do and what a majority of us do in the podcasting world. They will say things to coincide with WWE story. That's able to be replayed like on a documentary. You know, that's the difference. We will call it out how we see it as fans and how storyline goes. But for them, they will talk as if it is real. That's why they make, you know, these plays. They're not that stupid. Sam Roberts is not that dumb. You know, when Rock comes in and says, Cody, you're not finishing this story. You know, obviously there was much more to it. We're not going to go there tonight. But when they're like, that greedy son of a bitch, I can't believe he did that to Cody. Like, chill. It's a storyline. Have a Snickers bar. Relax. You don't need no fucking protest in New York City. We're in the middle of a fucking protest for Israel and Palestine. You know, let's do this big protest. We want Cody. I agree with you, Nia. Pray for peace. Pray for peace. Before we go, theme parks and things with Jonathan. Sent a 5 spot. Thank you, Johnny. He says, I don't know if you talked about it, but my opinion on the WWE scooping up on Stephanie Vaquer, was it a mean thing to do to CMLL and bad on her part? Yeah, we actually opened up with it earlier. I'll add a little bit to it now. WWE didn't do anything wrong. Stephanie Vaquer didn't do anything wrong. If she had an ironclad contract with CMLL, she'd still be there. There's a lot about Stephanie Vaquer that we don't know. We don't know how much of it had to do with her domestic violence situation from earlier this year that about 90% of wrestling fans do not know. We don't know if these negotiations were going on a little bit longer than is perceived. We don't know that once she had the match at Forbidden Door, that WWE made her an offer and she went back to CMLL and said, listen, WWE wants me. Is there any way, and they want me for this weekend shows in Mexico, is there any way that you could let me out of my contract a little early? You know, they might have been all for it. You know, there's so much that we don't know. But the idea that WWE stole her is asinine because Stephanie Vaquer is a big girl. She's got a brain. She goes where she wants to go. She, again, nothing personal against Dave Meltzer, but the idea that, oh, she always wanted to be a WWE star. She didn't take AEW's offer seriously. There's a lot of people in AEW right now that their goal is to be a WWE star. That doesn't mean that they only work for WWE and nowhere else. I don't think Stephanie Vaquer did anything wrong. And I think if anybody out there is really going to criticize her, you better know the whole story before assuming, because little bits and pieces mean nothing. Just like Mercedes Moné, the Sasha Banks stuff. We don't know how deep that went with Johnny Ace. Oh, and by the way, check this out. I was going through my autograph photos because we're going to do some giveaways in the near future. And I found this. Am I the only person in the wrestling world that has an autograph photo of People Power, Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis? When Vince McMahon gets indicted by the government for the way he used money, if John Laurinaitis gets indicted also, which I don't think will happen, we'll do a giveaway. We'll give away an autographed photo of John Laurinaitis and Vince McMahon. For real. I looked at it, I was like, I knew I've been doing a DTKC show for the better part of 20 years. And I've been doing this since 97. It's fun. It's still fun. My life is quite boring at times, and there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, but wrestling is still fun. And that's why we do this. And I absolutely want to see this shit grow. You know, that's something that Kevin and I, that is the bitter pill that we swallow every single week right now. You know, it was 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago that we were by far the number one show online, bigger than anybody. And yes, you know, shit happened and we split for several years. But, you know, we got back together for the right reasons. And we're a lot different than what we were even 5 years ago. You know, life throws you curveballs sometimes, you know, that make you look at things a little bit differently. And, you know, this is still a shitload of fun to do. I definitely want to do more. Obviously, got to be very careful how you use your time. Can't burn out, can't overload. I definitely am planning on doing more content. But obviously, it's going to depend on everybody that tunes in. Because if the numbers aren't there and, you know, the people are not interested, then obviously it's not the smart thing to do. But I will tell you that every analytic that Kevin and I look at, and we're not big analytic guys, obviously, but everything that we look at, everything is trending upward, big time. And, you know, we definitely will fit in some more work. And listen, Kevin and I won't stop until we get back our number one spot. Not just outside the United States, because we've already hit number one in a lot of countries, but you know, we want to represent USA, Canada, UK. Top 20 is nice, but we will not rest until we are back on number one. And we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to just work hard, you know, keep our credibility, not, you know, manipulate anybody out there, just put our viewpoints out there. And, you know, hopefully enough people out there enjoy it. So if you like what we do, as I always say, spread the word. Let other people know that we are doing what we're doing. Post the links for the shows. Download the shows because that helps with our stats, obviously. It's not about just making money, but the higher we are in the stats, the more people see what we do. See, even on YouTube, I see it. That's why I don't bring it up much. Everybody I watch on YouTube, whether it's technology, whether it's crime drama, whether it's fucking coffee videos, whether it's food stuff, keto, whether it's anything I watch, you know, oh, like, share, subscribe, the you know, the analytics, you know, the click like, and I mean, the more people like the shows, the more people tune in. So, you know, we're not be all end all on YouTube. Obviously, if that's the case, we wouldn't survive. But you'd be surprised, you know, just downloading the shows, posting our links, spreading the word, posting on a message board, social media. We did a show, and you'd be surprised how many people still tune in and like, holy shit, I didn't know you guys were back. So we definitely want to keep growing. And if we keep growing, content will keep growing. It's the best way I could put it. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of my weekend. I hope you all do as well. I'll be back this Monday night with Kev for the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. Congrats again to Bob O'Mac for winning the Money in the Bank predictions. Hook you up with your prize. And we'll do the next predictions, obviously, for SummerSlam, which is coming up very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. So I'm out of here, everybody. Be well. Catch you all again soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.